Another trophy slips by Arsenal's grasp as Arsenal were beaten on penalties by Manchester United in the third round of the FA Cup. More injuries, more shocking missed chances, and big questions being asked of Arsenal right now. Let's get into it. Yes, hello and welcome back to Arsenal Unfiltered, your 3 times a week dose of Arsenal coverage. As you heard at the top, this episode is a match review of Arsenal 1, Manchester United 1, loss on penalties though. I think that ended 5-3, did it? 5-4 on penalties. A bad week just got a whole lot worse. I'm sat here at 7:45 on Sunday evening, having spent 3 hours essentially when you add it all together, watching Arsenal make a pig's ear of this game. Let's be honest. And look, the reaction online, I want to go straight to the reaction online because I'm seeing 2 groups of Arsenal fans right now. And actually I'm seeing 3. I'm seeing 3. One is the reactionary group and the guys who are Arteta out and the guys who are sending horrible comments to the players. And really, my content is not for you. So if you are sending horrible messages to the players or saying horrible things online about Arteta, just put your phone away, go to bed, right? Because this is not the space for that. We do not want anything, not any negativity. Negativity is part of it, but no horrible, negative, hateful comments towards the players. And then there are 2 other packs of fans, I think, and both of these feelings, I think, are correct. You're either feeling like we are doing not enough, we are not finishing our chances, the club needs to go and sign a striker, you can't believe they've not signed a striker, you can't believe they've not signed a winger. You're either looking at Arteta going, why have you not come up with a different way of playing? You're looking at the board going, why have you not done this, done that? And you're looking at the players thinking you've got to do more, all of that sort of stuff. Or you're a very analytical person who's maybe looking at the data, looking at the facts of how games are playing out for us at the moment. And you are, I guess you're less hurt than that first camp, but you are flabbergasted, completely at a loss as to how we are not winning these games. We created over 3 XG for the second game in 1 week, and we scored 1 goal. We've created over 6 XG, maybe close to 7 XG this week, and scored 1 singular goal. I'm not saying either of those ways of feeling about it are right. I think both feelings, whether you feel like we must go and get a new player in the January transfer window, we must do something different, Mikel Arteta must do something different, the board must do something different, the players must do it something different, or you're kind of completely at a loss as to how we're not winning these games. You're both right. I think for me, I fall somewhere in the middle. I do not know how we haven't won this game. I do not know how we haven't scored at least against Newcastle. On reflection, I think we probably did enough to get a better result there, but it didn't happen for us. And again, we definitely did enough to win against Manchester United tonight. And I'm a little bit lost. But no matter how you're feeling about it, we should start going through some of the facts of the game. We'll start with the lineup, which I haven't written down, so let's do this from memory. We started with Raya, and then it was Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, Miles Lewis, Skelly, Jorginho playing at 6. Thought that was interesting at the start of the game. Did not really know why Rice wasn't starting. The only thing I could think of was he really put a shift in against Newcastle. That must be it. He came on. He didn't look injured in any way. He didn't look like he was carrying anything, so I think it must have been normal rotation or the fact that he just ran himself into the ground versus Newcastle and didn't have the legs to start. They know a lot more about the players than we do. Then it was Martin Odegaard and Mikel Merino in front with a forward 3 of Gabby Jesus, Kai Havertz and Gabriel Martinelli. And Gabriel Martinelli really was involved in the first flashpoint on the 17th minute, I believe it was. The offside goal, let's say. I think it had been a bit of a tetchy game up until that point, but we were starting to turn the screw at this point. We were starting to raise the tempo, and it was a lovely piece of football through midfield, and the pass Odegaard plays, he's just delayed it, or Martinelli's gone too soon. I'm not quite certain on that. But it is offside, I think. I don't think you can look at what Maguire's done and say he's intentionally played that ball. And you certainly can't say it for certainty. So I wasn't aggrieved by that. I barely really even reacted to that moment. But that was the point where I was like, okay, we've turned the screw a little bit. This is positive. We're starting to up the tempo. And we did get there in the first half. It took a little while. But I think the overall feeling for the first half was it was a bit stale. We did start to up the tempo ever so often. There were a couple of balls over the top from a couple of players in the midfield that Martinelli nearly got onto. He had a couple of looks, but nothing more than that. His offside goal really was the only in-play flashpoint for Arsenal, at least. There was a moment where Manchester United broke on us and were denied what is a clear as day free kick. I have no idea what the ref was doing in this game. We'll come to the penalty later, but I truly feel that we got the majority of the decisions tonight. So we can't be looking at the ref. Certainly can't be looking at the ref. He was probably more in our favour than in Manchester United's favour, and it was a terrible decision on about the 38th minute to not give a foul against Gabby Jesus on Bruno Fernandes. He's gone straight through the back of him as Fernandes is in line to take a shot or create a chance. So it's a poor decision, but ultimately not one that changed the way the game played out, but it might have changed our season a little bit, because that tackle and a previous incident involving Gabby Jesus may have, I don't know if you can say ended his season. I don't know. It looked pretty bad. He was stretchered off, and we've seen Gabby Jesus have a real issue with injury to his knee before, but he had a landing that was a bit suspect, and he had some treatment, and then when he tackled Bruno Fernandes in that moment, he was in a lot of pain. And it is the last thing we need to have finally found Gabriel Jesus again and got him scoring, got him into a better position. To lose him again now, it's awful. Really, really bad. And this is why, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but this is why this game has been such a bad afternoon for Arsenal, because it's not just that we're out of a competition. It's not just that we've lost to Manchester United on penalties. It is so many of these second string events that are going to come off the back of this that really make this feel terrible. In another season, I can forgive a team that goes out on penalties in the cup early. It happens. That happens. You can have bad days, especially against a squad so expensively assembled, But there are, this year, and all the things, all the offshoots and secondary effects of what's happening, that felt really, really painful. The game was stale in the first half, but it properly livened up in the second. And the first 15, 20 minutes of the second half it's one of those days where you just wish you were a neutral. It was very tense to watch it as an Arsenal fan. But as a neutral, I'm sure everyone will have enjoyed that. Let's talk about the United goal in the 50th minute. So it's a pretty simple goal. I mean, this is the risk that we take. We play so high up the pitch, and we work to really keep oppositions in their half. That is a primary tenet of Mikel Arteta's Arsenal. Suffocate them in their half. That's why our defence is so high. It's why Gabby and Saliba go running in at every opportunity to try and win the balls that are coming forward, to try and win that early and turn the ball back towards the opposition. Gabby has done that, essentially. Lewis Skelly commits to go and try and win a header. I think it's a little naive from him. However, he has been brilliant for a number of games now, and he is a kid. He's 18, so I'm not gonna put any blame on him. And ultimately, that is still not deep, probably midway through the Manchester United half. So there's tons to do. So him overcommitting for that header, I really don't think you can say too much about that in terms of contributing to the goal. What you can say is I really don't know what happens with Gabby and Garnacho on the halfway line. I've watched a highlight, and it looks like Gabby goes and wins the header, but wins it so unconvincingly that it kind of just, there's no power when he wins that duel. There's no kind of direction where he wants it to go. He just kind of gets there at first, but applies a really poor touch. The ball then ends up with Garnacho, and he's off. He is very fast. He is going to be difficult to catch. There's still a lot for him to do. He does a really good job of driving towards the Arsenal box and picking out Bruno Fernandes with a wonderful ball across. There was nothing else we could have done. Raya was beaten before he even had a chance to see the ball. It's a great finish from Bruno Fernandes, and you've got to say, it really didn't feel like Manchester United deserved it at that point, but that was their game plan, right? They came, they sat in, there was basically a back five for most of the first half and pretty much all of the second, and their game was, let's see if we can hit them on the break. And the first, maybe the second chance they got to hit us on the break, they did, and they scored. Immediately after, though, there was a massive chance for Kai Havertz on the 54th minute, and this is the one where we put the cross in from the left-hand side. Harry Maguire sort of, Maguire and De Ligt were brilliant all game. Really, really impressive. But this was his weakest moment, Maguire. He sort of just heads the ball down. It ends up with Martinelli. He squares the ball to Havertz, and Havertz just slices it in the 6-yard box. A really, really poor moment, and we'll come on to Kai Havertz in a minute. But then we do score. We score pretty quickly in the end. It's from Gabriel Magalhaes. The cross comes in, and Bayinda, who after this point had an absolutely storming game, makes a really poor attempt at crossing the ball. And Gabriel at clearing the cross, at punching the ball away. Gabriel kind of manages to twist his body, get himself in a position to volley it back in. And it takes a deflection, it goes in. And that is why you need to shoot more, right? Because it can hit anyone and go anywhere. We had tons of shots, but we don't have many of those shots where, it's coming out from a cross or something and it's falling to one of our players. We always take a touch at that point. We always take a touch and recycle it out wide to recross it. We need to sometimes, I think, just hit it a bit earlier. And that's what you can get. A deflected goal, a swing at it, really, I think, from Gabby. It's good technique, but he isn't expecting maybe to hit that quite as sweet as he does. He's certainly not expecting to bury that top corner or that to be a gilt-edged chance, right? It takes a deflection and it goes in. And suddenly we're 1-1. Oh, apologies. I think the red happened, didn't it? The red happened in between that. Yeah, so, the red from Dallo is crazy. Let me just check my notes. Yeah, the red happened just before our goal. So, yeah, and it was the free kick, actually. Apologies for that. The second yellow from Dallo is a clear yellow. Both of his tackles were terrible. The one on Lewis Skelly in the first half, and then the one on Trossard on Martinelli at that moment. He really overcommits. Silly from him. Really, really silly. And it's a clear red card. I don't know why they complained. And like I just described, we got straight back into it and we're 1-1 very, very quickly. Then the penalty. And this is the point. I've described a lot of what's happened there. An offside goal, the Jesus injury, the United goal, the red card, and our goal. The first half was pretty tepid, okay? And I felt like Manchester United had done their defending very well. They had counter-attacked really well when they got their opportunity, but they were kicking us all over the park. They were very, very dirty, getting a lot of yellow cards. So the red card was coming. And I felt like the first 15 minutes of that second half played out exactly how the teams kind of were set. They were set up and poised after the first half. Arsenal had all the ball, all the domination, all the territory, and they got the goal that they deserved. Manchester United have been defending really well, were ready for a counter-attack. They got the goal that they deserved, and they've been kicking us life and limb. They got the red card they deserved. Everything in that 15 minutes happened really quickly, and I felt that it was kind of, okay, this game is now set. For the first time in the game, we've suddenly got a situation that kind of reflects what we're seeing out there. Manchester United are having a good performance. They're doing a lot of good things, but they have lost a man because they are kicking us everywhere, and we've got the goal that I think our general play and our domination probably deserved. From the penalty, I feel like the confidence just drained out of our team. Let's quickly review the call. I don't think it's a penalty. I think it's really, really soft. There is some contact, but I think Kai Havertz goes looking for it. And it's one of those ones where if it's not given, you can totally understand. And if it's given, you can kind of see it, but everyone's going, oh, I'm not sure. I don't think it was a deserved penalty, but proper killer teams don't care. They put that away, okay? It's a decent ish penalty from Ødegaard. It's a good save from Bayindir. I don't really mind where you fall on that. For me, it might be harsh, but you're the captain of an elite football team. You can't be stepping up with the lack of conviction that I think Ødegaard showed. That moment was pivotal. That moment was pivotal to the game in so many ways. It would have absolutely taken all the steam out of Manchester United. You have to take that penalty with all the conviction that you can muster in your body. And I don't think that penalty had enough conviction. I really don't. I think Ødegaard in that moment encapsulated everything we're trying to do. And he went, I'm going to try and score the perfect penalty in the very corner. And he's tried to stroke and curve it in. And it looks like he's doing a good job of it. Like I say, it's not a terrible penalty. But just get up there and put your foot through it. Put it in the back of the net. Give the keeper no chance. That's what happened, right? It's a very well placed penalty. It's a very good save. But if that is hit half as well, not quite as at the corner as it was, but hit with far more conviction and just power, Bayindir might get a hand to it. It doesn't matter. It's going in because he's hit it hard enough. And I just think Ødegaard didn't read the situation well enough there. He needed to just bury that, to put it through Bayindir. Put Bayindir into the net for all I care. Do you know what I mean? Like, he didn't read the situation well. The stadium needed him to step up and just smash that in and look really, really confident. And I think he tries to take the perfect penalty, which is admirable. And I think he's done a good job. But if you go to try and take a perfect crafted penalty that is not quite as hard and powerful as some others that we've seen, it always gives the keeper the chance to make the perfect save. Okay? But an average penalty hit really, really, really hard, a keeper's going to struggle with. Really going to struggle with. And I think from there, we really, really struggled. I mean, we had upped our tempo big time. I've written a list here. Kai Havertz missed a sitter on the 87th minute. That was the one it kind of fell to him when no one thought it was going to fall to him, and he poked it over the bar from 6 yards out. Rice with the free header on the 75th minute. Ødegaard ball in. He has a free header. Looks for the life of it like he's going to score. And I originally thought that was a great Bayindir save, but you see the reverse angle. Rice has headed it straight at him. Rice with the left foot shot in the 94th minute. He works actually quite well. He dodged his man and kind of checked down the line a little bit and shot across the box. It looked like a fairly decent shot, but it was a good save from Bayindir. And then in the 10th minute of extra time, Trossard had that moment where he doesn't quite get to the ball first and De Ligt comes in and clears it off the line. Incredible that we don't score any of those. Incredible that Havertz doesn't score immediately after the United goal. And right there, we've got a penalty plus, I think, probably 5 chances that I think we should score. I think we should score at least 2 of them. Maybe 3. And this is the thing. This is where I'm at with it. I think we are doing plenty enough to win these games. I think we did plenty enough to win this game this afternoon. And I mentioned at the start, you might look at these games and you might say, what is Mikel doing? We need to do something completely differently. We need to find a different way in. We're not creating enough chances, whatever. I don't think, for me, the creation of chances is an issue. I really don't. I think against Newcastle, we had Kai Havertz chance, we had the Timber chance, we had the Saliba chance. Against United, we've had a penalty, we've had 2 Havertz chances inside the 6-yard box. We've had 2 chances for Rice, one of them a really clear header. Trossard, not quite quick enough to get in there. I think we created plenty in both of these games. And this is where it gets really difficult, because you can't sit here and constantly say, oh, we're being unlucky. How have we not done that? But you watch the game and you see the stats and you think, oh yeah, how have we not won that game? I think there's a lot of reasons why. I'm going to go into that in part 2, and I'm going to discuss some of the secondary effects of this game as well. But yeah, they are the key events that happened in this game. I'm not going to go through the penalty shootout. It's a poor penalty from Kai Havertz. Again, trying to hit it softly into the perfect area. Bayindir saves it. The other penalties are what they are. But in the second half, I'll talk about some of those second string effects, and I'll talk about really how do we balance the feeling of we've done plenty and I can't believe we haven't scored with we need change. Hello everyone, I'm just going to interrupt this match review podcast to say a massive thank you for listening to Arsenal Unfiltered. This is a 3 times a week podcast where I do match review podcasts and I host the Arsenal Roundup, which is our news show where I cover transfer rumours, injuries, press conferences, all the news relating to Arsenal. If you like this episode or you've liked any episode of Arsenal Unfiltered that you've listened to in the past, please do me a massive, massive favour and just go and leave me a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts at. That will really help me grow the community and really help Arsenal Unfiltered grow so I can keep bringing you 3 times a week Arsenal podcasts, reviews, all of this sort of stuff. So if you like the podcast, please do consider giving it a 5-star review. Thank you so much. And I'm back. So before the break, I kind of took us through the match as it was, and I described the 2 types of fans, how you're feeling, whether you're feeling completely bamboozled, how we haven't won these games, or you feel there really needs to be action, something needs to change, we need to do something differently at board level, at managerial level, at player level, however you want to look at it. I think both sets of those fans are right. But we have to find some sort of balance in there, right? That's where we're at as a club. Because we need to not overreact to this week as a club. I'm not saying the fans are overreacting, but as a club, this week can't trigger us to go out and spend 150 million on Alexander Isak and, potentially blow crazy money on a player who might be the right fit, but also might not be the right fit, who then scuppers any summer transfer business that we want to do. We need to stay careful, we need to stay considered, and I really don't want to see us go back to the model where we just bring players in. Arteta mentioned that in his press conference earlier this week. He doesn't just want a body, he wants a player to come in and impact the team. So we have fans who are calling for, we need different players, we need a different striker, we need a different left winger. I understand that feeling, but we have to be careful and remember that actually the club's planning cannot be based on our reactions to a really terrible week. It can't. The club will be looking at the fact that we've made, or I say the club, Mikel Arteta and his team will be looking at the fact that we've made 6xG in 2 games against 2 good-ish teams and only scored 1 goal. That is what Mikel Arteta will be looking at. And he needs to understand, is that a complete talent issue? Which I think it is partially. I think we need some more lethal players. I've spoken a lot on this podcast about how I want a new left winger in that kind of lethal killer role. That's where I see that being developed. I'm probably going to look a little silly after this week, okay? But I have defended Kai Havertz a lot, although I think he has had a truly terrible week in front of goal. Truly terrible. And that is something that we really need to change quite quickly, but everyone's going to have bad weeks, right? But like I say, Arteta will be looking at that 6xG and going, how have we not scored more goals? How have we not beaten Manchester United? And he will have to balance, is it a talent problem? Or is there a issue with the players that we currently have that isn't necessarily talent related, that isn't necessarily going to change if you bring another player in? We could be in this scenario again. Is there a managerial thing that him and his team can do or start to look at that changes the way we are acting in the final third? And I really do strongly believe that if you are looking at this and saying we don't have enough talent in the attacking third, you want a new player in, left wing, forward, I strongly believe that you're right, and I'm one of those people. I also strongly believe that the chances we've created this week by any professional footballer's standard should have been finished. They should have done. And I don't think you need Alexander Isak or Victor Gyökeres or anyone to go and finish those chances. So I really don't agree with the idea that we're not creating enough. But if someone wants to have a conversation with me about conviction and confidence and kind of killer instinct and stuff like that, that is something I don't think we are breeding in anymore. And we are, I saw it on a post on Blue Sky, apologies, I can't remember who said it, but it was a post about kind of football by numbers. And I think it was meant in a kind of, you must do it in a certain way, like the paintings, right? But I thought of it, when I first read it, I thought it was like, an idea that Arteta is going for a world where if we just create enough, if we just overload everything, one of them will go in. And we're seeing this week that that's not working, right? We're seeing plenty of chances be made and none of them go in. You don't need Alexander Isak or Victor Gyökeres or Lionel Messi or anyone to finish the chances we've made this week. We need to start breeding some confidence. We need to start breeding some conviction into our forward players. And I truly believe, even though we might not be good enough to go and win the league or win the Champions League with the front line we've got, the 2 games this week, okay, we have a front line that's plenty good enough to go and win those games with what we created, and we didn't. Some people will say Murphy's Law, some people will say bad luck, some people will say talent, right? But for me, this is a real confidence thing. We've got to address this because I feel like the players are feeling this more and more and more. They are probably feeling the Murphy's Law effect. Everything that can go wrong will go wrong. That effect, they're probably feeling that about this season so much, and you can see it in their final actions, I think. So for me, you are right if you want another player. I want other players because I think it's needed for long-term success over a long period. But for this week, for these 2 games, we've created plenty and we have the players to finish the chances that we've created. They are good enough to finish what we've created. What we haven't had this week is an intangible confidence, conviction, all of that sort of stuff. And Mikel Arteta absolutely needs to find a way to get them back into that space very, very quickly. I don't want to drag this episode out too long, but I do want to just speak a little bit about the long-term effects of this game. Because as fans, we're all going to feel this, I think, for a while. We're all going to feel this week for a while. It certainly feels like one of those weeks that we used to have under Arsene Wenger where our season would unravel within, a week. And we'd go out of 2 competitions and we'd take a bad loss in the league and it would feel like we were gone. The year was over. And it feels exactly like that right now. We've got a North London derby coming up on the weekend, which I don't think the fans are going to be super hopeful for. I don't think we are going to see players who are super confident stepping up there. And there's going to have to be some massive leadership to get the squad ready for that game from Martin Odegaard, from Declan Rice, from William Saliba, all of those guys. They're going to have to step up and go, you know what, it's been a bad week, but we're not going to lose to Tottenham. Okay? This is a midweek game under the lights. We have got to go out and win this. And I really believe that they need to show that because otherwise our season could be gone in the space of a week. It really could. The really important and really negative thing from this game is it's 120 minutes in the legs of really key players with no reward. We're not through, but we've put all that effort in. We've lost Gabby Jesus and we're not through. It's really, really bad. The squad's confidence, I think, is probably on the floor, like I said, and we really need people to rally them. Arteta will have a tough job. So to sum up, I think it was a crazy game. I really do believe you can look at this however you want to look at it, and I think you're basically right. I really do. What we've got to remember, though, that these are the same players that just a year ago were about to go into a run that we could not believe. We couldn't have dreamt it, okay? And we've got to remember that these are good players, and this year, or maybe just this week, has been bizarre, It has been bizarre. To miss the chances that we've missed, it's kind of criminal. And, I'm going to highlight him. I have defended him a lot on this podcast and said Kai Havertz is a brilliant player for Arsenal. His week has been terrible. His week has been really terrible. A missed sitter against Newcastle, 2 missed sitters against Manchester United, and the missed penalty. Really, really, really poor week from him, and he needs to turn it around quite quickly. Martin Odegaard, missed penalty. I know he created tons in this game, but Martin Odegaard absolutely missing that penalty. It was a kind of sliding doors moment for the game. He needs to find some sort of form, and we need a change. Mikel Arteta needs to change how these players feel. He needs to change the confidence. He needs to change the conviction that they are doing their actions with, because that is what we're failing at right now. You know what? That's quite a nice place to end it. That's where we're failing, with confidence, with conviction, with the final action. And I really want to leave people with that thought, because going out and getting a new player doesn't necessarily change what happens today or against Newcastle, right? You can go out and get a left winger and we can create tons of chances and they can just inexplicably miss, okay? And we could be like, well, we could be another 70 million quid light and still be going, what on earth just happened? We need to coach something different into these players right now, and it needs to be that confidence, that conviction, that really decisive final action, okay, when we are creating these really great chances. Okay, I'm going to leave it there because I think that's quite a nice thought to end on. Like I say, however you feel about this game, I think you're right, okay? Please, however, keep the discourse respectful. Don't go after players. If you are that kind of person, put your phone down. The players are doing their best. They deserve our respect. They are trying for the club. And I really, really hate to see any negativity, or at least, hateful negativity towards the players. Really, people need to really remember what they're saying online and just calm down, because we really need to remember that these guys are human and they will be suffering as much as we are right now. It's also important to remember that if we beat Tottenham, the mood will quickly lift, right? So let's hope for a very, very good performance and a turnaround. I can't say I'm feeling confident. I can't say that this has been a good week. I can't really see a huge number of positives from this game. The only thing I can say is that we kept creating. It doesn't mean much if you don't finish them, but that is slim pickings. It's the only thing we can kind of look at. I'm going to leave it there. Like I said in the middle, if you have enjoyed this episode or any episode of Arsenal Unfiltered, please consider dropping a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast from. Let's hope for a much better performance against Tottenham. Thank you for following, thank you for listening, and I'll speak to you very, very soon.